Plosives. I'm the product manager for audio and Audition here at Adobe, and I'm joined today by my good friend Mark Edward Lewis. Mark has been a audio producer, musician, composer, editor, sound designer, filmmaker now, director, comic book creator.
Oh yeah.
Churro aficionado.
Churros. It's the most important thing that I'm about, churros.
I first met Mark at the MZ Sound Advice Tour a couple years ago. He was leading that worldwide tour, teaching filmmakers and editors how to get better audio in their productions. And, it was a quote we were talking about this morning, ostensibly from George Lucas, that sound is half the picture-going experience, the filmmaking experience, and yet rarely is it 5% of the budget. I think today we're going to take a look at not changing the budget because the bankers, they are not convinced, but we know that you can make amazing sound for that same amount of money. So I think we're going to show workflows today, tips and tricks, how to get that Hollywood sound without necessarily, or with the Hollywood budget, if it's really as low as it seems.
If you've got it, yeah. It's good to have the Hollywood budget. It really is. Hey, everybody. I am Mark Edward Lewis, and it all started for me back when I was six years old. And you've probably seen, if you're not in LA or Hollywood, you've probably seen the theater Man's Chinese, where they've got the handprints and stuff in the footprints and the concrete and all that. And I saw this movie when I was 6, and I went with my grandparents, and it starts with this orange text that goes up like this, and then the Star Destroyer comes in and hits the Corellian cruiser, and it blows up, and there's droids and stuff. You know what I'm talking about. And Star Wars, when I was 6, changed me from the course of being a paleontologist, I'm not kidding, I really wanted to get in touch and close with dinosaurs, to going, listen, this thing about telling stories, this thing about immersing people in a world that they wouldn't otherwise be in is what I'm about. And I got all my degrees in music because I was fortunately born to professional musicians. And yeah. And about 28 years old, I was like, there's more to this. Sound is more than just music and moving emotions. And then I got into editing, I got into filmmaking, I got into all the things that many of you are now doing, and realized how Hollywood does what it does in terms of audience impact. And although George Lucas is partially right about it being 50%, I say for at least the audience impact that the audience walks away from, it's 80%. Sound. I know, that's crazy.
That's a Danny Boyle quote.
Is it?
He famously said that sound was 80% of his pictures. So
oh, I didn't even know that.
You're in good company.
See, I'm learning now here. Yeah, I hope you're learning too. So then, as where I met Duran was on the Sound Advice Tour, went all around the United States, North America, and Australia talking with 1,200 filmmakers, and we talked about everything that we needed in basic format, from post-production, production, everything. And basically the same thing was told at every show, which is we don't know how audio works, we don't know how to get that Hollywood sound, we don't know what to do, how do we get there? And Adobe Audition is one of the most powerful tools that you can have to make that Hollywood sound and that Hollywood audience impact. And we created a website after that, realizing that an 8-hour show was nowhere near what we needed to do.
Nowhere close.
Not even close. So I created a website called Cinema Sound. You can see the name here, Cinema Sound, yay. And what it is a kind of a hub for media people, media creators, not just filmmakers, podcasters, everybody who wants to get that powerful audience impact, how to get the immersive elements that are required to make something great, whether it's for commercials, whether it's for your investors or whatever. So it's a free blog, and it's also a forum for asking questions, and Duran actually hops on from time to time and answers questions when things come up and I and the staff can't answer them. And it's also an 85-hour, the world's only 85-hour intensive audio course covering everything from record, edit, fix, effects, music, mix, and your workspace. And we go through all of that stuff for you. And I'll just kind of drop you in here and give you a look. This is the actual web page. And
it's only 85 hours?
Actually, it's 85 hours for the audio, for my portion. It's another 70 hours. We just came out with a coloring, how to do color correction for everything from directing, editing, color correction, the cinematography, it's nuts. It's fantastic. So this is the website. Oh, good, you already have it up. That's awesome. You're awesome. Paco is awesome. And just lots of articles of everything that you would need to know. We also have a store where I'm building all kinds of things for filmmakers, from Premiere Pro presets specifically for audio tools to, we also sell these lovely headphones. More education, and I'm actually working on a Foley library right now that's triggered from your keyboard, your piano keyboard, so you can perform it in MIDI. And then when the director's like, I don't like this Foley, can you change it? You don't go, what? I gotta move all the audio? No, you just go, new preset. How's this? The sync stays the same. So it's a lot of fun stuff and a lot of really great, kind of not available anywhere else education that's available to you. And it's sort of, my passion is for independent media to really see a new renaissance so that it becomes so good, so immersive, that it's considered a viable choice to big budget Hollywood media. And to me, 80% of that is sound. And we're gonna show you some really cool stuff today. A little more basic than maybe what we will be showing on Wednesday and Thursday when we're back here. We're gonna go over what we're gonna do today. We're gonna talk about how to make a recording. I've got a couple of cool microphones here. We're gonna go over how to denoise. We're gonna go over how to make dialogue sound great. We're gonna do some maybe some things with some plugins. How do you export without going over? What's the right volume? And some really, really cool stuff. And we're definitely looking forward to your questions, your concerns. You've got the smartest man on the planet here and the best looking man. And together, we'll get it handled for you.
Awesome.
So there you go.
That sounds fantastic. I can't wait. I want to watch this. Do you want to just take over? I'll go sit there and watch the show?
No. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I can't wait to get started. I wanted to take a look at the chat room. Everybody immediately got your Star Wars reference.
I hope so.
It sounds like we got a lot of geeks in there.
Yes!
My kind of people. We got some great feedback coming in already. And before we get going, you want to hand me that big comfy thing over there?
This thing here.
Yeah, apparently we've been giving these away through all the shows today. Nice little Creative Cloud pillow. We're going to do that random giveaway in probably about half an hour. It may smell like my hug.
Wow.
Later.
I don't know what that is.
It's about Durin's nap time right now. So.
Oh, Durin's nap time.
Yeah, but I'll try my best to stay awake and
Thank
be
goodness.
on.
Hopefully I'll be interesting enough.
I think you'll have to be.
Okay, very well.
Okay, well, so that's kind of some of your background, and if you're at home, if you're playing along at home and you've launched the new version of Audition in the last week or two, you've probably seen Mark's face on the splash screen there with 2 free hours of video training content. So he graciously put together this amazing package for brand new Audition users, audio editors, Premiere users, people who are coming to Audition for the first time, know they need to do something, know they want to make their audio better. Where do you start? You start with Mark's tutorials. He runs through everything, runs through the workspaces, setting up your devices, how to use the effects, how to work with clips, automation, the whole gamut. It's really fantastic. I highly recommend you check it out, but not right now. Right now, let's watch him live. You've got the man here and in person. Yeah, you can find that if you've closed that panel and you can't get it back. It's under Help, Audition, Learn in the Audition menu bar.
Up here, Help, Audition, Learn, and
That's it.
Once you close it, you won't see my happy face anymore. I'm sorry to say, unless you go there like that. Oh no, I won't come up when I boot anymore. All right, so what else do you need to talk about?
That's about it. Why don't we just jump into it?
Okay.
Show something interesting and get the folks what they paid for.
Cool. All right, so this is the edit window in Adobe Audition. There's a whole gamut of windows, and some windows that we'll be getting into a little bit later that no other digital audio workstation has in any kind of useful fashion. But this is your edit window. This is where you're going to be dragging or dealing with clips and things like that. Each one of these little horizontal spaces is a track, and for those of you who've done non-linear editing, it's very much the same kind of thing. You put clips in here. Each one has its own set of plugins that you can add on a track basis or clip by clip. But what we're going to do right now is do our first recording And there's a way that I show you how to do it in those tutorials where we do it from the waveform editor. But here we're going to do it in the multi-track editor. And maybe not something you're used to, but that's cool. We're going to get used to it right away. The first thing we need to do is I've got just kind of introduce these microphones. Now, there's no particular reason why I'm using these microphones. They just happen to be on hand from where I had them in LA. This is the Rode Podcaster. And this over here is the Samson G-Track Pro. This one has multipolar patterns, which means that it can pick up from this side, called cardioid, from front and back, called figure 8, or all the way around, called omnidirectional. This one is fixed omnidirectional. So we're going to just start with, actually I think I'm plugged into the G-Track Pro, but I'll show you things that we need to know about when we're going to do our first recording. First, we're going to go to Preferences, and then we're going to look at Audio Hardware. And in this Audio Hardware panel, you can see you have a default input. Now, for those of you that are on PC, it may look a little bit different. You're certainly not going to have core audio. What are they going to see?
ASIO, MME, and Wasabi. Wasabi.
We just had that.
Yeah, we did.
Some wasabi.
It was fantastic.
Yeah. And so in the default input, you've got various things. Again, this is for my Macintosh. I've got a built-in microphone, and I've got, oh dear, Pro Tools is in there, oh dear. And then the Rode Podcaster is plugged in, and the Samson G-Track Pro. So for now, for us to select this, we want to have that there. And then for the output, we're going out, the computer output. I've got various other ones that I can use. The master clock. Now, people get confused about this. Don't be. If you're running one of these microphones that are USB, because we're plugged in via USB, my strong suggestion is you leave the internal clock of your computer as the master. Typically the clock, and you're like, well, what clock? What time is it? It's without getting into all the details of digital PCM recording, it's basically the shutter on your camera that tells the computer, when do I listen to audio? It's a really terrible way of saying it, but
it's the Flavor Flav of the preference panel.
There you go. And you want to have the most accurate and strong clock, accurate, the most in-time clock you can. And most of the time, these microphones are not the most accurate with that. We want to keep the computer as the built-in clock source. The only time that we don't is if you have an audio interface, a dedicated audio interface, something from Mark of the Unicorn or one of these other manufacturers. Then, because they are dedicated units, that's when you want to have those as the master clock. Typically, they're going to be way, way better. Yes, sir?
Why might I want an audio interface as opposed to a USB microphone?
That's a great question. What we're going to discover in just a second is that I can only choose one of these microphones to record at a time. And that's not just an Adobe Audition thing. That's any digital audio workstation can only listen, well, unless you have special hardware, can only listen to one audio source at a time. Otherwise, it's listening to two different clocks, and you've got problems and sync issues. With an audio interface, hopefully it has multiple analog inputs and digital inputs. You can plug in multiple microphones, guitars, anything you want that'll fit into your interface. All of that goes down the little USB or FireWire or Thunderbolt channel, and then Audition sees all that and can easily split that out into its independent parts, shows up on independent channels. It's super dope. How's that?
That was great. Real quick before we move on from Master Clock, Axel Gerber has a question. He says, the Master Clock is like the latency?
Wow, that's a great question. Master Clock can have an effect on latency. Well, let's go back a step. What's latency, right? Latency.
What's latency?
Latency, that's a great question too. Latency, I actually have a buddy named Leighton, so it has nothing to do with my...
What's latency?
Okay, we're there. We're still there. Latency is the delay between the time the audio or the sound pressure level hits this microphone, goes down the cable, and is translated via the audio interface or Audition, and then comes to me here, or to you there. How long is that? The longer it is, the more we say the latency is. We usually rate it in milliseconds, thousandths of a second. And you're like, well, that's no big deal, really. It kind of isn't unless you're listening back to your audio. And in fact, Paco, can you turn this? Let's see, wait, hold on, I'll show you here in a second. I'm gonna give you some audio. I'm gonna arm this track for record. I haven't forgotten your question. And then we're gonna turn it on input. You hear the delay? Now you're listening to me both on this Rode microphone that we have pointed at my face in Durin and this G-Track Pro. You'll notice the delay, right? I'm not speaking, I'm not like, the white zone is for low loading and then unload. I'm not doing that me. This is here. And it's probably, what is this, 15 milliseconds somewhere? 10?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more.
Oh, you think it's more? You would know more.
There's a delay. There's a 20 milliseconds is right on that edge of, am I hearing that or not?
Yeah, you're right.
You get a little bit higher, 30, 40. That's when you start to get that. There you go.
Yeah, you can really, there's two distinct snaps for sure. And that is showing us that there is a latency between my voice that's coming directly to you and my voice going to the G-Track Pro, into Audition, coming out, and then going directly to you. And that we rate in the milliseconds. And then, so that's what latency is. So clock doesn't really have anything to do with latency, unless you're running a high-speed clock. Right now we're at 48,000 hertz. That's our clock currently, or 48K. And if you're in video or media at all, that's very, very familiar to you. But what if we ran at 96,000? What if we ran at 192,000? Then what would have been this far, like at 48 kilohertz, now at 96 is here, 1/2, because it's running twice as fast. Or 192, now it's a quarter, right? Well, that's nothing. Doesn't look good. So although it takes up a lot more computer power to do that, it definitely shortens the latency because things are moving much faster down that pipeline of processing. That
was fantastic.
We get it?
Yep.
Long answer, but great question. Any other questions we want to jump into before we do some recording?
Well, some of them we're going to dive into a little bit later.
Okay.
Siobhan Fraser loves how we've developed an ear for the difference between 10 and 15 milliseconds. It could be 10, it could be 15. I'll sound like I know what I'm talking about between the two, but it's really kind of...
Thank you for noticing. All right, so let's do this recording. So I'm going to zoom in here on this little channel. So just to recap, I have selected, again, preferences, audio, hardware. This is the G-Track Pro. The master clock is internal, and there it is, 48,000. That's the sample rate. I like to start with the 512 buffer size, which does absolutely affect the latency. The higher this is, the easier it is on your computer, but the longer the latency. In fact, can we demo that? Will that work? I'm going to arm this track again because this is fun. Check this out. We're going to go like this. We're going to go back to hardware. Here's that delay. Let's make it 32. Now you're talking probably 10, 8, somewhere in there. For sure. Let's go out to 4K. Watch this.
Watch this.
What? That's crazy long. And you're like, well, that's super fun, but we wouldn't really want to listen to this on an ongoing basis, especially if you were doing ADR. And if you've ever tried to talk over yourself with a delay like this, it's really hard. It takes a lot of training. Don't waste your time. Just put it at a reasonable setting. And like this. And you wouldn't use that kind of a setting unless you had a really slow computer or, as we'll show you on Thursday, a really dense mix. On Thursday, we're going to show you an 80-track plus mix that we use in the Cinema Sound Education and kind of fool around with it and do some mixing. Okay, cool. Now, I've kind of already done this twice. You've seen me. What is he doing with these little buttons? These little buttons here are fun. This is M for mute. That means that it kills any audio that's on that channel. S is for solo, which means it kills all the other channels, so you only hear that. R for record, and you'll notice that it shows up here on this, and this is actually a stereo channel. What we really want to do is a mono channel, because this really only is a mono microphone. So how do we do that? Well, I'm going to zoom back out. We're going to go to multitrack, tracks, add mono audio track. Fantastic. And you can tell the difference between a mono and a stereo track. Let's see here if I can zoom down here. You can see here, that's a single little...
I don't think we can see the bottom.
You can't? Oh, I'm looking on the screen. That right there.
You can see it there, yeah.
That's single, and this is dual, meaning that it's stereo. And if I arm this track for record, you can see now there's only one of these LEDs going up and down, which is really, right side. really what we want. The I, to zoom back in, this is monitor input. And just because I have this track arm for record and I'm seeing level, doesn't mean that it's coming back to me. We can't really hear it until I hit I, and there's that latency, and we know that it's what it sounds like, and hopefully it sounds good. Just so you know, if you're running a USB microphone, I'm gonna turn that off because it's annoying, you don't have control over the volume of your microphone. You have to do it from within your system. Audition isn't going to give you this thing that's like, hey, you can trim up and down your microphone, correct?
Right.
So you have to do it from within your system, unless you have a microphone like this one. This one has a handy dandy, you can watch the meter, I can turn it down and it's off, I can turn it all the way up and go crushingly loud, which we don't want to hear. Whereas with the Rode Podcaster, it doesn't have that. So you're like, well, what's that little knob on that? That's for headphones. You can plug in headphones and listen directly if you'd like. But the input to Audition is not that.
Let me explain why that is real briefly.
Yeah.
Audition will capture the raw full signal coming in from that interface, whether it's a USB, whether it's a expensive box, whether it's the built-in system. The reason that we don't have an input gain in the interface is because it would be a false input gain. We'd just be turning the volume up, which is something you can do in the application afterward. And you're going to get better quality by making sure the input source is at the right level to begin with. Then you're not going to have that high noise floor, that background noise, that sounds. You're going to get cleaner. You're going to get a better capture if you have your levels set right at the source, not manipulating them digitally later.
Correct. If you have an audio interface, some of you are like, man, I do that on my microphone. It's like, well, you probably do it on your audio interface or in software that's in your audio interface that helps you turn up and down the mic preamp. And then that's at an analog or maybe even a digital level, but it's still outside of Audition or any of the digital audio workstations that you're working with. So, anything else about that?
No.
Let's push the big red button.
Push the big button.
When we do recording, see this little red light here? That usually means bad. Red, bad, not good. We don't want to go over. What that means is you've exceeded the volume level that the microphone in this case, the preamp on this little knob, can record. And what that means is you've lost data. Bottom line, data is missing. And if you want a great sound, you want all the data that's coming out of your recording sources. So we want to set the level in such a way that we don't go to zero and get that bad red light. And we also don't want to see if I can get it just right. We also don't want to see it like this. That's too low. And although at modern recording, it doesn't really matter that much, the problem shows up, as we'll show you on actually tomorrow and Thursday, when you have to add plugins like compression and EQ and limiting. It brings up that noise floor, and that's bad. And we can fix a lot of that, but most people come to me and say, can you fix our movie? Because they've recorded things poorly in the first place. So we want to try to do that as best we can. So a little bit louder volume. I'm going to be doing things called Plosives, which are really, really loud, obnoxious sounds because of the nature of this condenser microphone. That's okay if that goes over, because we're going to show you how to generally fix those. But let's see, check 1, 2, check 1, 2, that's great. I'm going to hit the big red button, which is down here, this cool little thing. And as soon as I do, I'm starting to record, and you can see the waveform happening, and that's super nice. You'll also notice, you probably already noticed, that as I'm speaking, biologically, me personally, Mark Edward Lewis, has a lot of breath noise. Every time I take a breath, my mechanism makes a lot of noise, and we're going to be showing you how to get rid of that super awesomely, probably in a way that only Audition can do. This is a plosive machine, and we'll play this back and I'll show you what I mean. Plosives are when the expulsion of air from your P consonants hits the microphone and it goes plosives, power, Peter, Piper, picked a peck. Okay, we're going to hit the space bar, and now we're ready to play back. Let's just take it out of record and play back. And as soon as I do, I'm starting to record, and you can see the waveform happening, and that's super nice. You'll also notice, you probably already noticed that. Okay, it's there. Let's go check out some of these really cool plosives. And it goes plosives, power, Peter, Piper, picked a peck. It's like listening to a bad action movie. All right, so let's check this out. Let's do the Rode Podcaster, and to select it, we're going to go Preferences, Audio Hardware, without the whale talk, and then Rode Podcaster. We leave the built-in output the same, we leave the master clock the same, Everything else should be the same. Now, if I make a new mono audio track and hit record, let's just check to make sure this is the case. There it is. Check 1, 2. It has a slightly longer latency. Interesting, isn't it? Because same microphone? Well, no, different electronics. So it's slightly longer, but we're going to record this. The level seems pretty good, just out of the box, which is great. Here we go. We're going to hit the bit. Oh, we should mute this track first so I don't hear it. And we're going to record, we're going to go over here because I forgot to go to the top, but that's okay. So this is omnidirectional, which means that regardless of where I turn it, or hit my face with it, it's going to be the same sound, theoretically. Now, because it's a podcaster, if I do this, it's probably not going to sound that great. But anywhere here, you're in good shape. And one of the things that I talk about in the tutorial is that most people have their podcasters' microphones down here. And you can see in a second how horrible this sounds. All right, most of the time, almost all the time, we want the microphone as close to the noise hole as possible. We're going to hit stop. Yay for on-the-fly performances. We're going to take it out of record and hit play. And we're going to record, we're going to go over here because I forgot to go to the top, but that's okay. So this is omnidirectional, which means that regardless of where I turn it, or hit my face with it, it's going to be the same sound, theoretically. Now, because it's a podcaster, if I do this, it's probably not going to sound. Let's check it out what it sounds like on the desk-ish. Microphone's down here, and you can see in a second how horrible this sounds. It's like dark and weird. So whenever, in any case of any microphone, if you can get it close, that's the good sound button that you can have. And you're like, well, wait a minute, you just said you were on like microphones that are up here somewhere. How is that sounding any good? Well, that's what a hypercardioid, a supercardioid, an ultracardioid, they can be far away. They have a super narrow, what we call polar pattern, and it has nothing to do with bears or ice or opposite sides of the planet. Just how it's picking you up. And these hypercardioid, supercardioid microphones that we have that sometimes you see on a shotgun or boom pole kind of thing, they reject everything from the sides and they pick you up like crazy, even way off at distance. So, but that's not what these are. These are meant for very close in. All right, let's do a little A/B comparison because who's having fun?
I'm having fun.
Okay, thank you.
I think everybody is having fun. I'm watching some great jokes and comments in the chat room.
Good.
Some good questions. They want to know, once you remove your plosives, are they going to be explosives?
They're going to be explosives.
We were really hoping to get into the dad jokes early, so thank you guys for jumping in and helping out.
Don't get me started on puns. Between Duran and I, we have at least 2 hours of straight gag punishment for you.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
You're holding this.
I'm holding this because it's just about time. I think we're actually at time for the giveaway of this pillow.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you want to feel it?
I do. I'm definitely not getting this, so.
Now, I feel like a daytime
so
television
nice.
talk show thing right now. Oh my gosh,
This is
pillow
so great.
wonderful.
Look at this. Oh, I love that music. That music's so dope.
So we are going to do a random giveaway, I believe. Somebody's going to tell me who won the randomizer from folks who are in the chat room. If you're not typing in the chat room and saying something hilarious, I don't know if you're going to get this pillow or not. There can be only one.
There can be only one. Oh, look, I can even read this. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
you can see that.
Wow.
Yeah. Lots of people want this pillow.
That seems so.
Now I'm expecting some screen to show me who the winner is. If not, we'll do a giveaway at some later. Oh yeah, just some later.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, I see.
Oh.
Shake it, shake 'em up, shake 'em up, shake 'em.
Oh, it's a digital roller
Yeah, it's
thing.
pretty fantastic. Well, then I'm just going to sit here and rest on it a little bit until we have somebody to give it away to.
Nice.
In the meantime, let's keep the education going.
Yes. Right. So some of you have already noticed that I slid this over, and for those of you who are in nonlinear editor land, you're like, duh, that's easy. But if you've never seen this before, one of the great things about digital audio workstation like Audition is you can position this stuff anywhere, and you don't have to spool tape or anything like this. I remember when I first saw this, I grew up back in the 2-inch tape days where you're like, whoa, you can just move that? Totally cool. But let's do an A/B. So this is let's just call this the Rode podcast Podster podcaster. And then this is the Samson G-Track Pro. Okay, and I just did that by double-clicking on those little letters there, and they show up. Here is, let's go back to the top. And I can scroll, by the way, by clicking up here any old way I want. Let's go back to the top. This is the podcaster. And we're going to record, we're going to go over here because I forgot to go to the top, but that's okay. So this is omnidirectional. Cool, and then we're going to go back to the top, and I'm going to unmute the Samson G-Track Pro. And as soon as I do, I'm starting to record, and you can see the waveform happening. And that's super nice. Let's go back again. Here's the road. And we're going to record, we're going to go over here because I forgot to go to the top, but that's okay. So this is Omni. Okay, and then the Samson. And as soon as I do, I'm starting to record, and you can see the waveform happen. Now, some of you are going, oh man, the road sounds so much better. Here's the thing, and obviously it's up to you, right? You make up your own mind about it. If you take a look at this waveform, whoa, not that waveform, these waveforms, take a look. See how much less this is than this? This is definitely quieter. And one of the things we discovered on the Sound Advice Tour with 1,200 odd filmmakers is that we did a little test, and 90% of the time when we played exactly the same audio material, like identical, 1 decibel, that's 1 decibel louder, that's a teeny little bit, almost everybody liked it better. Just because it was louder. Not that, oh, it sounded better or it was whatever, they liked it better. So I'm gonna do my best to balance these two and play it again and see if you don't notice a difference in how you like it. Now this is the volume knob for the edit window. We'll get into the volume slider stroke fader on Thursday. But for here, I'm just gonna boost this maybe 4 dB or so. And let's see what happens here. And as soon as I do, I'm starting to record, and let me just double check if that balances. And we're gonna, nope, still not. We need more. It was quite a bit less in volume. How about 6, 7 dB? How about this? And as soon as I do, I'm starting to record, and you can see the waveform happening. There's that, and here's the Rode Podcaster. And we're gonna record, we're gonna go over here because I forgot to go to the top, but that's okay. So this is Omni. One more time, back to the Samson. And as soon as I do, I'm starting to record, and you can see the, and the, and we're going to record, we're going to go over here because I forgot to go to the top, but that's okay. Now I'm going to leave up to you the decision on which one you would like. Maybe you have a different use and you're like, oh, this one would be better for this use and this one would be better for the other. But it definitely makes a difference when you're auditioning microphones, tracks, takes, anything else, your volume level. And if you're like, oh, this one sounds better than this one, I like this one better, they need to be the same volume in order for you to have an accurate judgment about them. Now, I think we have a winner before I move on, do we not?
We do. We did have one question as well. They noticed you renamed your tracks when you started to record. The question was, is it a good practice to rename your tracks before you start to record so that the clips adopt the name of the track?
Yes.
Yep, absolutely.
Without question. I got a little ahead of myself there, so thank you.
I did want to tell you, we've had most of the conversation in the chat room has been about the pillow, which is awesome. Some very good puns, lots of pillow fight, pillow talk. Unfortunately, somebody picked up on my Highlander gag a little bit ago. There can be only one, which means the rest of you are going to have a tough pillow to swallow when you don't win. That said, our winner for this episode, Fabian Zalea. Fabian, this pillow's coming to you.
Come on.
Yep. Throw your hands up. Everyone else, give them a little cheer in the chat room, and try again. Tune in tomorrow. We'll give other stuff away.
So dope. Cool. Thank you, Fabian.
Congratulations, Fabian.
Yay. All right, cool. So I'm going to move forward here with the G-Track Pro because it does plosives in a much more sensitive fashion. It's a bit more sensitive microphone. It's a condenser, whereas the Podcaster is a dynamic microphone. So dynamic microphones do audio differently. And dynamic microphones are great for, like, if you're on stage, you can swing them around by the cable, you can drop them in your beer, they're still going to work. They're like really basic electronics that we've been using since the 30s, probably.
At least, yeah.
Whereas a condenser microphone requires power to work, it requires all kinds of things, and it's usually better fidelity, a lot more high frequencies, a lot more low frequencies typically, and wacko crazy sensitivity to plosives, sibilants, and these kinds of things. So just because I'm going to show you some cool things, we're going to use that one. All right. So when probably the biggest question I get is, how do we clean up dialogue? That's like saying, how long is a piece of string? It depends on how you've recorded it. Now, we're actually in Adobe Studios here. What do we call this place? Is this Adobe Studios?
I think it's Adobe Studio.
Adobe Studios at Adobe Live.
San Francisco, California.
San Francisco, California. I was born there. Who knows that reference? Let's hear it. All right. Oh, my. We got to clean this up. And now we're in this really quiet room, so there's not a whole lot of noise to clean up, but the process is much the same. So the first thing we do is we double click. Now you can do this any old way you want. This is the way I do it, all right. We double click here, and we come to this super amazing Zulu looking window. And if you've never seen it before, this is the spectral view, different than the waveform view. If I want the waveform view, I just look at this little thing right here. I drag it down, and I get a very familiar looking window. We do all kinds of tutorials on this in the education, so I'm not gonna go into how, but I'm gonna show you some cool stuff. So what this is, spectral view, early, late, high frequencies, low frequencies, and the brighter it is, the louder. So take a look at what this looks like if I play this. And as soon as I do, I'm starting to record, and you can see the waveform happening. And that's super nice. You can see my breaths. You'll also notice, you probably already noticed, that as I'm speaking, biologically, me personally, Mark Edward Lewis, has a lot of breath noise. Okay, and then the fundamentals of my voice and all these kind of harmonics, and things like that. Super dope. Now there's a little noise in here. It's, again, a quiet room. But in here we also have some, I guess those are LED lights, maybe not, but all kinds of lights. There's cameras, there's whirring, I almost said education. There's education, there's air conditioning. Why do I put those together? And that's what is here. Now it's very low, and if I use the time tool, that's this here, and I can, in my key command set T. Oh, that's default, isn't it? T.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. I can select this, and with this little button on here, I can loop it so it'll keep playing back and forth. Can you turn that up? It's really quiet, just for a second. Right? Cool. We don't want to do hip-hop out of that. Thank you. You can turn that down. It's going to get loud again. Cool. Now that is the noise of the room and the self-noise of this microphone combined. And you can hear there's a little... That's actually the microphone processor doing its calculations. This stuff down here, I'm going to use the lasso tool. I'm just going to select some of these pitches. Like this. It's a little tone. It's kind of hard to hear down here. Why am I not hearing just there? Oh, actually, that sound is the sound of my output from my computer linked to his, sorry, let me just turn this up then. Let's see here. You can just hear it.
Yep.
It's junk in the room. And we want to make this as clean as possible. The way we do that is, I'm going to use the time tool. We need to teach Audition what the noise is. We do that by selecting a part of the non-talk part, and definitely not the breath part. Some people make that mistake. It's like, oh, he's breathing, he's not talking, I'm going to use that. Don't do that. You're going to get terrible results. Some place, doesn't have to be long, ideally a second or more, but it can be a little shorter, that gives Audition a chance to listen to the noise unmolested. Then we go to Effects, Noise Reduction Restoration, Noise Reduction Process. Now Audition has 8 million ways of reducing noise. There's some amazing ways. I'm just going to show you the way I use. Noise Reduction Process. Okay, in this window, I'm going to zoom in. We have Capture Noise Print. This is the button that you'll use to tell Audition, hey, let's take a look at that. We do. Once we do, we get this cool Zulu-looking window, which shows us that, hey, it now knows where the dialogue is versus the noise versus the whatever else. For me, I'm not going to go into all these settings because they're scary, but they work great. I like somewhere between 80 and 90% noise reduction, and then you get to tell Audition how much of that noise do you want to pull down. In this case, let's say 10 decibels. The higher you go, the more artifacts you're going to experience. And let me just say this in the clear. There is no magic noise correction. There is nothing. There is not any plugin, not any software, nothing that will fix your really, really noisy audio and make it sound great. Not yet, anyway. There's some amazing tools, but you're always going to have a coefficient between the between artifacts and the noise. You can't have no artifacts and no noise. You're going to have no artifacts and all the noise, or no noise and all the artifacts. And by artifacts, that weird chirpiness kind of nonsense. I think, in fact, if I give a really bad setting here, like a really annoying setting, you can hear what I'm talking about. So we're going to just select, now that we've told Audition what the noise is, we'll just check out some of this dialogue, and I'm going to hit this play button, which instantiates the process. My mechanism makes a lot of noise, and we're going to be showing you how to get rid of that. My mechanism makes a lot of noise. Of course, it sounds
That
great.
sounds great. Which microphone was that?
That's this one.
There was a couple questions.
Yeah.
Kathy and George were talking about how much these microphones cost. I just went and looked it up.
Yeah.
The retail. So the Rode Podcaster retails for about $220 or so. The Samson G-Track Pro is around $150. So they're both fantastic.
Yeah.
Both have good names behind them.
Definitely. So hilariously, we did this horrific setting, and the dialogue, the talking. My mechanism makes a lot of noise, and we're going to be showing you how to get rid of that. Sounds great.
What did it sound like before if you hit the power button?
Let's turn this off and hit play. Oh, this little power button looking thing that turns the plugin on and off for both destructive and non-destructive plugins. Let's go back out here. My mechanism makes a lot of noise, and we're going to be showing you how to get rid of that. Let's turn it off. My mechanism makes a lot of noise, and we're going to be showing you how to get rid of that. Some of the high frequencies getting knocked off a little bit. Let's turn it back on. My mechanism makes a lot of noise, and we're going to be. You can hear it up in the sibilance mechanisms. Turn it on, or turn it off once again. My mechanism makes a lot of noise, and we're going to be showing you. And then on. My mechanism makes a lot of noise, and. So I don't need that much noise correction. First of all, we recorded it very well in a room that sounds great, and secondly. We recorded it in a great room, and it sounds great. All right, so I'm going to select all. I'm going to just, in this case, Command or Control for you PC folks, A, and I get everything. You can see it go all the way across up here. And then I hit Apply. It says it's thinking. And now if you'll look at this area, I'm going to zoom in again, it's much darker, which means it's much quieter. In this case, 10 decibels quieter in a broadband or so way, which, again, in a studio, it's not that big of a deal. You probably don't need to do this. But if you're on set, and there's air conditioners going or compressors going, or worse, red cameras sitting right by the actor doing an ECU on a on an 80 millimeter or a 24 millimeter or something like this, you're going to get a lot of. And Audition does a great job of getting rid of those tones, those weird tones. Anything that's constant, it kills it like, well, it kills it. I don't have a good example for you there of an analogy. All right, so let's go back to the top. Let's take a listen. And as soon as I do, I'm starting to record, and you can see the waveform happening, and that's super nice. It's dead quiet. The only noise you're really hearing now is the actual self-noise of the computer, my little, going to the recording and then streaming to you, which is going to add some noise. All right, so now we've got the noise cleaned up, but there's some obvious issues with this. Obvious issues, none of the least of which is plosives, right? Just going on. Now, Audition has a plosive plugin. And to be honest, I haven't used it that much, so I don't really know if it. I'm sure it worked great.
It's fantastic. I do want to mention one interesting question that I don't think I've ever been asked before.
Whoa.
That Axel asked in the chat room. When you do noise reduction and you silence frequencies, does that make the resulting file smaller?
Well, if you're doing compressed audio, theoretically, it will. But if you're doing PCM, WAV, or AIF, something like that, it won't. It's still going to record all of the data, regardless of how dense or not dense. But if you're doing MP3 or one of these others, it's theoretically going to be less because there's less data doing this. Much like a gradient on a picture, if you're doing JPEG, you're going to have a much larger file with gradients in JPEG than if it's just solid colors. Same kind of thing.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I've never been asked that either.
No, that's a great question.
Great question.
Hey, you've been doing such a rockin' job. I haven't been able to do my job.
What?
Which is to tell people about what else is going on here with the show.
Oh.
And it's brief. We'll just take a few seconds. Well, I just want to remind everybody there's about a little more than 40 minutes left in the contest giveaway, the challenge submission. So this isn't just me giving away this wonderful pillow. This is a direct prize for meeting the challenge. So in the chat room, you can see that there should be an option near the top about the challenge. You can click there, download the project assets, follow the rules, submit your entry, and be in the running for the review later and that awesome prize that's coming.
Super cool.
That's all I've got. Why don't we jump back into...
Okay, that was awesome. That was awesome.
Yep.
Thanks, Axel. That was a great question. All right, so we did the noise bit. Now let's see about... Look, I love spectral editing because you can do all kinds of bad things to audio. I love messing audio up. Ideally, we use it to make good sound. And so that's what we're going to try to do today. I'm going to use this marquee tool. And if I select, you can see I can kind of select anywhere in the audio I want. I can select the high frequencies. I can select the super lows. I hope you're listening on good pair of headphones on a good system, but if you're listening on your laptop speakers, you will not hear this. Ooh. Not at all. Yeah, boom. It's like crazy. The first thing we can do to get rid of the plosives is get rid of all the low frequencies that are below the sound of my voice. Now, unfortunately, you know, I've got a pretty low voice, so it goes down there pretty far. But the plosive stuff goes way, way below that, and you can see it, in fact, here at this really, really bad zone. This is the plosive going ka-boom. Take a breath, right? Breath, boom. I didn't make the boom happen. My voice didn't. That's a function of plosives. So the first thing we want to do easily is just kind of locate the low part of my voice, which is down here somewhere. We'll use the marquee tool, and we'll just kind of, I'm actually kind of carve it into this a little bit more than I want. That's this fundamental frequency, harmony or harmonic of my voice, unselected. There's none of me in there. And if you're listening on laptops, you hear nothing. You just see the meters going because it's so low. We're talking 40, 50.
I want to listen to this on my high school friend's pickup truck with the big Rockford Fosgates in the back.
I think we've got a big band name, the Plosives. Cocoon. Actually, there's a fun way of using compression on this to make it sound like a bass drum, too. Oh, here's good right here. Watch this. Here's the chorus, baby. All right, and with that, we can, now once selected, take this little volume thing here. I know it's kind of small on the screen. This actually, I can boost or I can cut, which is one of the really cool things about Audition that not too many digital noise correctors can do, like anything from waves. Some of you mentioned waves. Well, waves won't let you do this, I'm afraid. So we have this kind of control here in Audition. I'm just going to kill it. 96 decibels down means it's really, really quiet now. And you can see the big black bar that I created. Yeah? So now let's take a listen. And as soon as I do, I'm starting to record, and you can see the waveform happening. Now, unless you're on good speakers, it probably sounds identical to you because we've taken out the body, the lowest energy, which is a lot of energy of it. And you know, on a little laptop speaker, again, you're not going to hear the difference. But I promise you, the hard part, the really offending part is done. Let's then fix some of these other ones. Let me just find one here that I can fix real quick. Oh yeah, these might be good. You can see the difference. This is my voice. Here's the plosive nonsense. And you can see that it goes up here, up into the frequencies. Let's see. And as soon as I do... Oh, actually, that's a sibilant. And as soon as I... Cool. Let's fix these three plosives. Sound good? Let's try it. And as soon as I do... Now again, I haven't used the plosive plugin, which is new. So I'm going to show you the good old-fashioned way, and then you all can get on and tell us how the plosive plugin works. So I'm going to use the lasso tool. When we're doing this, we don't want to select the voice of the artist, right? If we're going to try to erase plosives, we want to try to keep as much of the voice of the artist in as possible. Easy to see that artist. There's all those harmonics of me, the artist. We're going to select everything but that using the lasso tool. And I'm just going to use this first one for a second. I'm holding down Shift. That allows me to select multiple sites and it may not look like super perfect, but some of you who use Photoshop start getting the picture. Hey, this is Photoshop for audio. What? It's true. And in the old days, we used to have to use EQs, and they were really not, you know, we're going to talk about EQs for a lot tomorrow. And it really wasn't very successful. But in this case, we can target the frequencies that we want to either boost or cut or change and deal with them individually. So let's take a listen to this. There's not a lot of that that's me. I may have accidentally selected, there it is again. See, he's really trying to get this band thing going. I'm going to go here to this volume thing. I'm going to kill it, drop it all the way down to 96 dB. It's there a little bit, but it's been dramatically reduced. I'm going to zoom out, and let's take a listen to this very first one. And as soon as I... And you're like, well, it's there a little bit. Well, let's undo and remind ourselves what it was. And again, if you're listening on laptop speakers, it may not sound that different to you. And as soon as I do. So there's a little bit left, and I can actually see this little dude right here I missed. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to erase that, zoom out. I'm using the minus key, by the way. You can use minus and plus to zoom out on any of the windows.
Yes.
Edit. Yeah.
And as soon as I do,
Cool. That one's much better. Let's go to this. And now that you kind of get the gist, there's my voice, the fundamental frequency. And I'm going to select that other than fundamental frequency nonsense that we got from our plosives. We're going to go like this, get rid of that. We're going to turn this down. Then we're going to do this one, because this one, ooh, hi. We're going to do this one. This is like a pregnant snake looking thing right here. That's definitely not me. We're going to select this bit here, anything but my voice. That's not me. We're going to kill that. Now, how did we do in context?
and as soon as I do, I'm starting. And as soon as I do,
And you're like, it's still there a little bit, but if we undo, well, let's go back to the noise fix.
and as soon as I do, and as soon as I do,
If you didn't have this tool, you'd be an ADR. You can't use an EQ to get in here and get that kind of fix. And I'm guessing that with the Plosive tool, it does this for you.
Which tool are you referring to?
The plugin, the Plosive plugin that Audition has.
Well, we have noise reduction. We have some other tools. We don't have a specific
Are
one
you sure?
for plosives. We have a click and pop remover that can handle low frequency plosives, but there's nothing that's dedicated to plosives.
Click and
itself.
pop eliminator?
Yeah, click and pop.
That's what I
eliminator.
was thinking of.
That's a pretty hairy effect. It's really good.
It's
but
hairy,
It has
which
a
means I
lot.
clearly can't use it.
It has a lot of you hide in a crowd. We'll put on a wig.
Yeah.
No, it's a fantastic effect. It's a very complicated effect. We do have simpler click and pop removers.
Is there a plugin that you would use other than what I've just shown, which is the good old-fashioned faithful way of doing it, that in Audition that helps with this process?
Click and pop eliminator will work, and you can use even in context of the spectral view, you can make selections and just apply it to those low frequencies.
Yes.
So you're not touching any of the other frequencies, even if the settings might be applied to those higher frequencies,
What he's talking about is you could select just these low frequencies
and apply an effect.
and apply it there. A lot of times where you have problems with some of these plugins is that weird chirpiness that we tried to do with the noise thing and it was too good. And that happens in the upper frequencies. But if you can select lower frequencies, typically it gets masked by the higher energy, sheeny, sibilanty stuff. And that can be a way to get around if you really have to hit it hard. So
I have a question,
Yeah.
which was actually a question Jay Christ asked in the chat room.
Mm-hmm.
But that's we're talking about all the. Believe me, I love the awesome things Audition can do with sound. But what we've been showing is how to clean up noise, how to clean up environmental factors. Do you have any practical tips people can do for their home studios or when they're recording at home, in a hotel room, in an office that might just get a better recording in the first place, such that they may not need to go into this much detail?
Right. Yes. In fact, we have a couple of tutorials in Audition where we talk about the recording. First of all, what microphones to choose. You've heard these two, but there's a lot of other kinds of microphones, polar patterns that you can use to affect a good result. For example, and again, this is all in the tutorial. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. It's a great question, but it's there. If you have a situation where you're on set and you have an actor that's far away, you're on a wide shot or something like this, and you have to get a microphone to them, you have a couple of choices. You can put a lavalier on them, hide it, which is really easy to do usually. The problem with a lavalier is they're typically omnidirectional, pick up everything all around. And if you have a scene where they're talking like this and a noisy air conditioner, I promise you're going to be an ADR. What you want instead is a hypercardioid, supercardioid, ultracardioid on a shotgun as close as possible, although far, it's going to have to be far. But its job is to pick up whatever's dead in front of it, wham, right there, and reject everything else. You're going to get a better result with that kind of microphone. In fact, I was recording a couple months ago at my place, and the neighbor decided to hire a bunch of buzzsaws to go chop his tree down, right in the middle, and I had musicians there. And I had all these really nice microphones, nice condensers. We were going to get a great sound. And I was like, oh, are you kidding me? I mean, it was bad. Even with sound treatment, it was like, Rrr. So what I ended up using was shotgun microphones. I know it's crazy, but it sounded great because shotgun microphones are condenser microphones, really, really nice high frequencies. And on the vocalists, when they had to sing, I put a pop filter in front of the shotgun microphone. So microphone choice has a lot to do with it. Distance has a lot to do with it. How close is your microphone to your face? If it's out here, unless it's a shotgun type, you're going to get a lot of room, as we kind of demonstrated earlier. What's another consideration? The room itself. So if you're in a really ringy room, this room is pretty dead, and you're listening to it on this microphone up here. If you're in a really ringy room, what does that mean? You've got parallel walls that are reflective, mirrors, glass, something like this. Anything that you can do to keep the sound from bouncing around is what you want. And maybe that's only that you've got the microphone as close as possible, but you can, they make little things where, what do you call them, where the microphone's inside.
Mini sound booths.
Mini sound booths. Sometimes that can help if you have a big reflection issue. I tell you what, one of the things you can do is if you have a big mirror or a big window, and that's going to be your biggest offense in your room, is highly reflective for both light and sound, you want to point that microphone away from the window. I've seen a lot of people where if the window's over here, they're like, oh, I'm going to face myself away from the window. Yeah, but where's the microphone? Pointing at the window.
Right.
So you want to actually look at the window, and now the microphone's pointed away. That's what you want to do. If you have a noisy environment, like cars down on the street below, something like this, you got people talking next door, whatever you can do to get the microphone as close as possible and reject anything that's like, you don't want to use an omnidirectional lavalier. You want something that can be very close and reject everything else. And that's either a cardioid pattern, well, this isn't a cardioid pattern, this one is. Cardioid pattern as close as possible, or a hypercardioid or super or ultra, whatever, as close as possible.
I know radio journalists who, when they're recording from a hotel room, maybe the hotel room is not optimal for recording, they will grab the blanket or the duvet off of the bed, pull it over their head, laptop in their lap, microphone here, and make a mini studio, mini sound booth right there.
You can totally do that. The problem with that is this: when you make that, and I've done that, you have to have really smooth sheets, blankets, whatever, because as soon as you move, especially if you're using condenser microphones, they love high frequencies and they will pick it up, and good luck getting rid of that, even in Adobe Audition, I'm sorry to say. The other thing is that when you create that shroud, we're going to call it a shroud, this shroud, you're actually creating a little mini booth that ideally doesn't have a lot of reflections, but if you're talking loud, you're actually going to get a weird kind of I'm in a trunk sound. So if you're doing that, you have to talk at a lesser level. Right now I'm talking kind of mezzo forte, but you want medium loud. You want to talk a little less loud so that the emphasis or what happens in that shroud doesn't affect the sound too much between you and the mic. That's great.
And if you want to sound like you're in a trunk, we do have presets for that.
They have really great presets for that. Especially, I'll leave it. You find those cool presets.
There's just about a half hour left on the challenge submission, so I just checked to refresh the page. I see about 6 or so new ones in there, but you've got some time if you want to work on that in the background or listen to us in the background while you're working on that, or if you've got 2 monitors and you want to keep looking at our pretty faces, zoom us up big on one and working on the other.
Now I'm going to blow your minds now, especially you podcaster folks. Check this out. Now, I didn't know about this until I did the tutorials about this. So this is so dope. My biggest pitch to podcasters, and you're all kind of in the family, right? You're all using Adobe Audition. Yes, good. My biggest pitch when I go to shows about Audition is, look, Audition saves time. Audition's really the only, if not the only, the premier digital audio workstation for doing macros and multiple tasks all at once in a keystroke or a mouse click. There's nothing like it, really. One of those things that we always have to do as podcasters is get rid of breaths, right? You don't always have to, but it's helpful to be able to find them and get rid of them. Well, on most digital audio workstations, you got to go click, click, find, select, get rid of, and all of those other things. In fact, let me just show you what I'm talking about. Oops, wrong button. There we go. I'm using the number 9 on my key commands to jump back to the edit window. So let's just zoom in here. I'm going to pull this down and make this larger. Let's just check out where these breaths are. I'll show you what I'm talking about.
And as soon as I do, I'm starting to record, and you can see the waveform happening.
Right there, right? So here's a breath. And now I can do this. I'm using the time tool. I can select this breath, and you get used to what they look like, because a breath doesn't have the energy of my actual voice. That's all these bass frequencies going on. Right? That's cool. Now for me, once I've selected it, I have a key command. Is Command K for split all? That's default. Great.
Split.
So Command or Control K, bang, split. I've got everything split now, which is super cool, right? That's nice. Most digital audio workstations, many, I'll say many, you got to go, okay, I select again, I hit delete, and now I want to ripple delete. For those of you in nonlinear editing land, I want this bit to slide over to that bit. And what I would have to do is I got to go, okay, I'm going to select, I get the arrow tool, I bring it over, and it snaps. I've got snapping enabled, so it puts me there, and I'm good. And then I move to the next breath, but not on Adobe Audition. We don't do it like that. We don't roll that way. That's a square roll, yo. We're going to go back. I'm going to select again. Here we go. Here's my selection. I hit Command K. Cool, right? You didn't even see it. Watch this. Here it comes again. Ready? What? Ripple delete. Now I happen to have it on Shift delete. It's easy for me. I don't think there is a default for it, is there? You have to go in and assign it.
Well, we have several different ripple delete commands: time selection,
Yes.
selected clip. So we haven't assigned shortcut keys to them all. So really, you can go and customize the one that you tend to use the most often.
Totally. And another great thing about Audition is that it is wildly customizable. But check out how cool this was. I selected Command K or Control K, Shift delete in my case, bam, everything's gone. Let's try another one, just because this is fun.
Nice. You'll also notice, you probably already noticed, that as I'm speaking, biologically, me personally, Mark Edward Lewis, has a lot of breath noise.
Boy, I talked a long time for that one. Wow, I didn't know where I was going to...
On one breath, too.
Where was I going to shut up? Okay, let's listen to this one. There's some weird frog thing going on in my throat. That's gross. All right, we're going to Command K. We're going to, in my case, Shift delete. Bang, it's all better. Let's take a listen.
There's a lot of breath noise. Every time I take a...
What?
There's a lot of breath noise. Every time I take a
So dope. Let's do another
breath,
Big
my mechanism makes a lot of noise, and we're going to be showing you how to get rid of that super awesomely, probably in a way that only Audition can do.
Man, I don't shut up. I'm just talking. I feel like circular breathing.
You're making my job easy today.
I just got a circular breathe on the chair. Okay, what have I got here? Oh, I selected a little too much. You can see that because this low frequency little ripple right here is going, I don't want that. So I'm going to hold down Shift. Maybe I don't even need to hold down Shift. I can just do this. And now, yeah, Command K, ripple delete. For me, Shift delete.
Can do. This is a
pretty seamless. Now, here's something else. If it wasn't seamless, if it wasn't, if there was a little tick or something like this, one of the amazing things about Adobe Audition is I can select, well, either one of these, but in this case, the incoming audio clip, and just give me one of those. You're like, well, what is that? Well, check this out.
You don't even have to move it. You can just untrim it a little bit, too.
Oh, well, that's true, too. I don't do it that way. But if it were in sync, if I couldn't move it, then, yeah, I can just move this over.
Yep.
Move one of the inputs and outputs over. But that's a little crossfade. Now check out, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to blow your mind. Before I really blow your mind, which I said I was, but I haven't yet, but I will. I'm going to blow it first with this. The new Audition, new and improved, allows you to do this. Let me go out here. I'm just going to pull this out so you can see it better. These little square-looking doohickeys right here, this is for making crossfades, and you can use up and down, all kinds of things. I'm on a trackpad on my laptop, obviously, so you're kind of cool. And you can make all kinds of fade shapes, which is super dope. Used to be that if you want to do in and out, you got to go like this, you got to go like this, and you can do that. But no longer. If I hold down Option or Alt, yes, I can do them both at the same time. What? What? And for those of you who use Final Cut Pro, no weird kind of things that bulge around and make it into a new combo. None of that. No, thank you. So that's super dope. All right, cool. So this is how we would go through in most digital audio workstations, and you can cut this up. And in Audition, it works great. Ripple, delete, assign your key commands, and you're good to go. And now we have
the waveform happening, and that's super nice. You'll also
breaths be gone. But here's the mind-blowing part, okay? I'm just going to undo. because I got an awful lot of undos in Adobe Audition. I'm going to go back to the spectral view, double click, it takes me here. All right, I'm also going to bring up the markers window. And a marker is a little thing that you can insert either into the timeline of your edit window or in the waveform strokes spectral view, and you can mark it for whatever, everything from a CD,
CD cues,
index
CD
cue,
tracks.
and you can name them or whatever you want. But most people don't realize that markers aren't just independent timeline things, they can have duration. What? I know, duration. I didn't believe it until, actually Duran showed me this. So you should probably show this, but I'm excited about it. Okay, in the spectral view, so I'll show it.
Yeah, do it. You're the boss today.
Don't say that gets me freaked out. So here's my voice. We know what this sounds like, or looks like rather, in the spectral view. Very different than the sibilant breath. That's the breath that we want to get rid of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the voice part alone, just up to where that breath happens.
And as soon as I do, I'm starting to record, and you can see the waveform happening. And as soon as I...
Okay, cool. I'm going to hit M in my key command set, and that creates a marker. Now, you're like, well, I didn't see anything. I know it's kind of hard to see. I'm going to zoom in. This little marker was made here, and it has a little line that goes over to here. It has duration now, which is super dope. I'm going to go back out. And I believe if I hit, nope. Yes, for me, my key command set has me be able to do Shift, Option, or Alt M. I just made that because it's easy for me to remember. Now, you didn't see what happened, but it's over here. I can name this. So we're going to call this Dialogue 1. Cool. Here's the breath. We go after the breath, and as we've already learned, I'm incredibly long-winded. There's the next one. Wow!
And that's super nice. You'll also notice, you probably already noticed, that as I'm speaking, biologically, me personally, Mark Edward Lewis, has a lot of breath noise. And that's super nice.
And it goes back. Great, we're going to hit M again. Shift, Option, or Alt M gets me this over here. I'm going to go Dialogue, actually space, select all, copy, and then 2. I'll show you why in a second. Some of you already figured it out. I'm going to do the next dialogue. Wait, what's this?
My mechanism.
Oh, there's me doing a weird breath thing. Let's get rid of that, because that's awful, even though I'm demonstrating.
Every time I take a breath,
Great, we're going to hit M, Shift, Option, Alt, M. Now I'm going to go paste. There's DX with a space, 3. Dialogue 3. You're getting it. It's so exciting. Let's see. Where's the next one? There it is, right there, I'm guessing. M, Shift, Alt, M, paste, 4. Great. Now I've got 4 dialogue bits, all with duration. Mark, why does this matter? Well, first of all, if I hit save, which it hasn't been saved because it has this asterisk really, really small. If I hit save, which I will, now I have burned those markers into this, in this case, I believe it's a wave file. That means if I want to bring this wave file into another digital audio workstation, like, some of you have, you got to end up in Pro Tools, whatever, or Logic, or Cubase, or Nuendo, or whatever, those markers are there. What? It's crazy.
It's cool.
Dope. AIF 2. All right, so Mark, this is cool, but my mind isn't blown. I get it. Let's go back to the edit window. Cool. Now in the edit window, if it's maybe hard to see, I'll zoom in. See these little dotted looking lines? These are those markers, which are put in there from the spectral view. Super dope. If I go to the marker window here, it will show nothing until I select this little button, which was something I didn't know. Show markers of all files. Now, you'll see these markers. There they are, DX1234. Super dope. And you're like, okay, I'm still not blown. Okay, watch this. Just for fun. Go away. Select all. Now this is what kind of burned me for a second, because I'm like, man, you know what I'm trying to do. I want to just drag them all in and have them all show up. And boy, why is it doing this vertical weirdness? Let go. What? Why does it do that? Well, watch this. If I did want to disseminate these clips down, I can hold down Option, and it does it. What? So useful. Okay, but no, we don't. So let's just do this for now. We're going to put this at the top. It makes it happen.
And as soon as I do, I'm starting to record, and you can see the waveform happening, and that's super nice. You'll also notice, you probably already noticed, that as I'm speaking, biologically, me personally, Mark Edward Lewis, has a lot of breath noise. Every time I take a breath, my mechanism makes a lot of noise.
What?
Whose mind is blown?
Mine's blown. I was blown when found out about this. And what was really funny is we had Eric Addison earlier today, and I actually went down and spoke for the Premiere Pro group down in San Diego. And if you're watching this at all, you guys are amazing. There should be Premiere Pro groups all over the world like Eric's group. And they actually asked me, I was showing them this, and I'm like, can you bring those all in together? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's see. And we're like, wow, it's so useful. So for you podcasters, hopefully there's gray matter all over your place. I hope, I think it's, is it tonic water that gets the blood out of the carpet?
Yeah.
Something like that. Well, he doesn't know. Why would he know? Okay. So let's see. Do you have anything?
I've got a little something to blow your mind.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. You did a lot of work there to blow everybody's mind, making marker ranges, pulling them in. Mm-hmm. Did you know there's a command to mark the audio and find those ranges automatically?
Get out of town.
Okay.
Wow. Like,
in the diagnostics panel, there's a tool there's a command called mark audio. You go in and you define what the silence levels are, and you can select a breath, take an average duration, look at the level, and say anything that's about this duration that's quieter than this level. I want to select everything that's not that.
Is it frequency? Can you tell frequency?
No, it's just.
But that would still be amazing. Level. You could just say, "Hey, make a marker," and then because breath noise, as you can see here. Well, not here. Let's go back to wrong buttons. Let's go here. As you can see from this, there's the breath. Look how much darker it is than the actual vocal projection. And if we look at the waveform, you can see. I mean, it's like so.
In spectral view, darker means quieter.
Right.
So,
where is this again?
If you look under Window Diagnostics.
Window Diagnostics.
Then under the effect.
Let's go here so I can see it.
Effect, mark audio.
There it is.
And there's where we define what silence is and what audio is.
Let's just try this because this is way too cool. I'm going to go to markers.
Yeah.
Delete all your old markers. Here. We're going to kill these boogans. Thank you so much for your service. We're going to go back to diagnostics. I'm going to move this back up. And then I'm going to say, signal. Right now, where's our signal at?
You can scan, too, and it will make
It'll tell me?
A best guess. And so if you scroll down here, we should be able to see what it thinks of.
Oh, please. Okay. That's not too bad. Let's see if I do mark all. Oh, there's that one. Okay, so probably a little bit higher. Signal is below for more than 140 milliseconds for sure. Signal is above for more than, what, 250? No.
I'm not wearing my glasses. You'll have to tell me.
Let's see, find levels here. Let's try this now. And then scan. And then if I mark all. Wow, that's pretty good. You can get this actually. Oh, this is so great. Yeah, anyway.
We'll take a look.
Now my mind is blown.
Woo!
Gray matter everywhere.
Nasser in the chat room has mentioned a couple times that he uses dynamics processing to reduce the breath levels, which is another fantastic option if you understand a little bit about compression and noise gating. The benefit of doing what you're doing here is it actually removes those breaths altogether so that you're actually just tightening up your recording. There's not these long breaths and these pauses. You're getting that nice quick bam, 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 which is pretty popular with podcasters. And
totally.
Especially if you're doing something that's timed, a commercial, maybe you have to talk about all the different side effects of that medication. You got to get it in that 30 seconds. So
those guys at the end, possibly death, possibly, whatever. Those guys.
Right. Everything that's worse than the disease.
Correct. But you can take this and it'll fix that. And what he's saying is so true. This is well, the markers aren't. But when we go in and cut and then print and do all of these things, that's a destructive process, meaning you're saving the spectral view, not markers, but you're saving the edits and the effects that you're doing in the spectral view to the file. Once you hit save, it's unlike nonlinear editors, right? Nonlinear editors, we had plugins, we had things to the clips, and you can always remove them. It doesn't change the raw video file, especially if you're using raw. But in audio, when we do this, it will burn onto the file. What's great about the what's great about the dynamics processor and the effects that you do on the track or clip level in the edit window is they are non-destructive, just like what you're used to using in the nonlinear editors and the timelines. You can change them, you can add them. The issue that you run into with using a dynamics processor is in the event you need to export this file to somebody else who isn't using Audition. Then they may not have that plugin, it's not going to sound right, and they have to figure out what you've done. So sometimes using a destructive process is beneficial when you have to send the audio to somebody else to use and they don't have your plugins or your digital audio workstation.
You've been talking for over an hour.
Is that right?
Yep. You've been
Wow.
doing a fantastic job. It goes fast, doesn't it? It goes fast. There's a question in the chat room from Jay Christ that's kind of applicable. How do you keep your voice crisp and cool and calm and even and level while you're talking so much?
Like physically in my body?
If you're recording a podcast, and how do you keep your voice from getting lazy and maybe starting to get crusty? What are some best practices for voice?
Is Paco here? Hey.
It's a big screen over there.
Yeah, you can't see him. I was like, is he here? What happened? He's our audio engineer and video engineer. And the whole reason we look amazing is our man Paco right now. Yeah. Can you turn my microphone off? And I'm going to turn this one on. Okay. What I'm going to do is just use this G track here.
Is it this one? Oh, I got the wrong one in.
Sorry, 1 second, Paco. I'm totally lying. Let's chill on the G track here just for a second.
We're throwing curveballs into the
curveballs.
Nice.
So let's use this track anyway, like this.
All right. Cool. I'm good. All right. So, this is typically where you're going to be. You're going to be very close, ideally, especially on a microphone like this with a pop filter, something that, will keep the plosives from happening. How do you keep your, sound great? Well, a lot of it has to do with your position. Again, close. You also don't want to be doing this, kind of moving around like you can immediately see this is terrible. You also don't want to have a situation where you're moving back and forth. Excuse me. But for you vocally, how do you keep energy? Well, first of all, don't sit back in your chair. Now, I'm sitting back in my chair because I have a kind of a desk issue here. If you sit back in your chair, what happens is this. You kind of get lower and lower and lower, especially if you're looking at a laptop. It's going to want you to bend over. As you bend over, your diaphragm basically gets cramped, and it causes you to not have the ability to get air in, since the whole process of biological sound, well, except for some sounds, has to do with air going this way. You need to have as much expansion in your chest, and it's good posture anyway, and you look way better being like this than like this. This is terrible. Okay, so when you're up and on the edge of your chair, it forces you to get away from the back of your chair, and you're sitting up strong. Also, make sure in your headphones you don't have your headphones loud. What? Why does that matter? If your headphones are loud, like right now my headphones are a little loud for me, but let's turn them down a little bit. As this gets louder, I get quieter because it gets really uncomfortable. But if I turn the microphone down like this, and I can start talking really loudly to get good levels, and you can see the levels there, all of a sudden my body's engaged. I can get excited, almost like I'm talking to a room for 500 people or something like this. But if I were to do that with this really loud, you would all die, and we would go over red, and you'd be wearing speaker cones. So, make sure that either your level on your microphone actually not your level. Let me scratch that. Your level should be where it should be. Your headphone mix should be lower so that you can, you get less blast of yourself in your microphone. I mean, let's face it, no one really likes listening to themselves on a microphone. That's not very pleasant. That's not what you sound like in here, right? We sound different. So the less of ourselves we can hear, the better you'll be able to keep energy up. The other thing that happens is if you have this a little bit lower and your energy starts, flagging, you'll stop being able to hear yourself, and it will make you start speaking louder. Like, oh, why can't I hear myself? I better be louder. It's just better all the way around. And also microphones want louder volumes, especially from vocalists. It's very difficult for them to pick up good sound when you're doing this. All you're really going to get is lip smackiness and all kinds of nonsense. Whereas if you have to be strong, that lip smack, tongue nonsense, mechanical noise is really is masked because your vocal presence is so loud. Mix that with constant distance to the microphone and sitting on the end of your chair. Stand if you dare. Ooh, that rhymed. That was good.
Ooh, that was good.
Woo! Then you're going to have a much better chance of having good vocal production. Now, the real way to fix it is go take vocal lessons. Learn how to sing opera or learn how to sing musical theater. And then you're going to learn a lot of vocal presentation and have no problems there at all. Thanks, Paco.
Cool.
So we got about 7 minutes left for the challenge submission.
Woo!
If you haven't, if you've got something ready to go, upload it. You've got time. You've got a couple minutes.
Couple minutes, man.
Yeah, it's good prizes. It's your last chance for the day. We've got a lot more to go through. Wow.
We do.
So,
Do we want to wait? Do we want to riff until that happens, or are people so excited that they're not going to be able to learn?
Just the deadline. We'll get to it when
deadline.
we'll get to it when we get to it.
Cool. I want to jump into something that's a little lateral, and this is you podcast folks have gotten some good love today. Thank you so much for making great podcasts and for joining us and telling us your experience on cinemasound.com. I'm going to give some love to the filmmaker folks.
I love the filmmaker folks
We
too.
love them. Yes. And Adobe Audition is, one of the premier tools. Oh, premier tools that you can use. Sorry, that's a terrible pun. I didn't mean to say. For getting that Hollywood immersion. And one of the things that I teach at Cinema Sound that most filmmakers miss is the importance of ambiences. Well, what's an ambience? Well, for just a second, before they take us off air, hit mute on your speaker and just listen for 5 seconds. What did you hear? You heard stuff in the background. Wherever you are in the world, it wasn't dead quiet. I mean, unless you're in an anechoic chamber, but I don't think anybody's. You wouldn't have a computer.
If you've got an anechoic chamber, call me up. Let's come over.
Next broadcast will be there. You wouldn't have a whirring, buzzing computer in an anechoic chamber anyway. Like all you'd hear is the computer. You got ambiences and stuff that's happening all around you. And in fact, what we know is that biologists tell us, neurologists tell us that the brain is receiving up to 7,000 impulses a second, but you can only focus on 3 or 4. That means that the majority of what your brain is doing is tuning stuff out, which when we do our films, if you want to suspend disbelief, that means, and not have people in the theater going, okay, I'm not really in this, I'm not immersed. You have to put all of that stuff back in to your audio track so that your viewer and listeners' brains go back to their usual pattern of tuning things out. Then they will dispel belief or suspend disbelief, and you have them in immersion. Well, how do we do that? Well, the biggest tool we do that with is ambiences. Now, you do that with Foley, like, we're making these Foley noises while we're moving around. Yeah. Oh man, and you can do that with Foley. You can do that with less so with sound effects, and definitely not with dialogue. It's not immersive at all, really. But ambiences is anything that you have in a room that will recreate a space, not the space that the actors are in, because we rarely want to do that. We want to create our own, fantastic space. Some of you are going to ask, well, is that room tone? No. Room tone is what you get when you're recording dialogue with one of these, and there's that space in between. Like, we need room tone, you get 30 seconds, and you use that to help heal edits in your edit. That's non-immersive. Well, why is that? Because it's mono. Terrible. But a lot of times, what I get from filmmakers is, all I have is a mono ambience. I really want to recreate what was on set, but I only have the room tone. How do I do that? It's just mono. I want to make it stereo. I want to make it 5:1. Well, it's usually a mistake, but if you have to, filmmakers, I'm going to show you some dope. You ready? Okay, so we're going to record some ambiences with the G-Track Pro, because I already got it connected. I'm going to use, I'm just going to make another mono track, because we love tracks. Oh, check this out. Oh, yeah, by the way, so I'm on a trackpad on my laptop. If I double scroll up, double with 2 fingers, look at how cool that is. And when I come down it goes to their minimum. Totally dope is that. But, oh, well, let me zoom out again. If I go out here, I get to go up and down. So dope. So cool. Okay. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. These tracks are muted. I'm going to mute this one too, even though there's nothing on it, because that's fun. Track, add mono audio track. This is going to be called ambience mono.
Naming your tracks up front.
I know.
What a good lesson.
Thank goodness. Who says that? Me. All right, then we're going to add 2 more mono tracks, and I'm just going to use this key command. This is for me, Control-Shift-M. Is that default? Control-Shift-M for mono?
I think so, yeah.
Control-Shift-M. That was Function-Shift-M. Good, Mark. Excellent job. You're on your laptop, not your desktop computer. 1. Oops. There. Control.
There you go.
There we go. If I can get my thumb on the right keys, it really, really helps, folks. All right, this is ambience mono. This is going to be ambience left. This is going to be ambience right. All right, we're going to arm record. Here's the G-Track Pro, yay. Now we're going to be very quiet. I'm going to just record. I'm just going to leave this on the, I'll just hold it, what the heck. I'll hold it, and we're going to record. Hit the big red button. That's enough of that. It's super boring, right? Oh, nobody likes it on set. It's so terrible. But what we have now is a recording of this room and a little bit of my skin because I moved. Let's see what we have here. I'm going to take it out of record. I'm going to double click, and you can see down here in the spectral view, not in the waveform view because it was way too quiet. But here in the spectral view, we have a bunch of stuff down there, which is super cool. What I'm going to do, just because it's really hard to listen because it's so low, I'm going to raise the volume. I'm going to do it with a special little thing called the, where is my normalize? There it is, normalize process. Normalizing gets a lot of bad rap because it used to be in the CD days at 16-bit 441, normalize was like, you know, it sounded terrible because we just didn't have the resolution. But now we're recording at 48 kilohertz 24-bit, which means, you know, the loss of fidelity is like almost infinitesimal when we do a normalize. I'm going to normalize this to -6. Let me zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. Normalize to -6 dB, which is going to make this really, really loud for us, but very, very useful. Look how much brighter this is. You can definitely hear that noise. This is mono. I'm actually going to get rid of this because this is me. Button. Mouth noise and junk like this. I'm going to do this and hit delete. Gone. At least until well, when I hit save, which I will. There, now it's gone. All we have is this lovely thing. Let's see this little tick right here. What is this? Ooh, something in the room. You hear it? That's so dope. It's so real. You don't want to get rid of that because that's realism. Oh, that's me. I don't like that at all. Well, okay. What about this one? That's me too. Ooh, gross. Well, you'll forgive my mouth. I should have just had it on the table, but you'll get it. We'll go back to the edit window here. Here is our ambiences, and take a look at this. I'm going to zoom back in. Because I labeled it before I recorded, it has the name on the clip. Okay. But Mark, it's mono. We're tired of your shtick. How do we get it to be stereo? I mean, of course, I could take it and go pan it left and pan it right, but that doesn't help us. That's, you know, it's still mono, right? How do I get this to do this? Well, you have the capability of using special plugins that help take mono files and split them out. But the real most basic way of doing this, and probably the most effective, is record a lot, as much of that mono ambience as you can, and then offset it. So I'm going to go click in the middle of this. I'm going to Command Control K, and I'm going to make this the left ambience, and I'm going to make this the right ambience. I'm going to just kind of change this here. So now they have the same length or so. There we go. And now I'm going to pan this one left, pan this one right. And you're like, well, Mark, it's still the same room. Why is that going to work? it is the same room, but it's at a different point. It was recorded at a different point in time. I know it's really hard to grasp, but if you take the same microphone in the same room and you delay them, or take this part over here from the timeline and this part over here and put them together, it sounds like a beautiful stereo pan. I'll show you what I mean. See how wide that is?
If you don't have headphones, you're not getting the full experience.
Unless you put your face up to your laptop and listen to it, like this. But that's actually as wide a stereo field as we can have. To get wider would cause phase issues and cause all kinds of things. So this is way better than using a plugin. And if you're stuck with a mono room tone file, you can do this. And you can, if you've got a long enough file, you can keep cutting pieces in to make 5.1. And we never really want to put ambiences in the center channel. Not really. That's what room tone is for. And we definitely don't want to put ambiences in the LFE. Almost never. I mean, unless you're doing Starship Enterprise stuff. And even then, that's a special thing we want to do. But so all you got to do is left surround, right surround, and cut this stuff up, move it in. You can take a mono ambience and make it quad or 5.1. And it's
This is all new to me. This is amazing.
Oh, really?
How have I missed this? How have I missed this in life? What a good idea.
It's so simple. Now, if you have stereo, you're way in the dope clear, because now you do the same thing, but you have, ideally you've recorded it with an XY microphone or some stereo mic. And now to do surround, just cut and, you do this, but now you're with stereo files, put one in the front, put one in the back, and you're good. That said, for those of you who watch Cinema Sound, you're like, Mark's a liar, he's lying to us, he says never do that. This is contingency plan. In real life, especially for those of you who are in a noisy environment right now, real life doesn't work this way. And we want to immerse our audiences in as real as we can. So for surround, and I know I can only show you in a stereo environment here streaming, but you want a different ambience in front than you have in the back. A different ambience, and sometimes so different that you've got cars and city in front and birds and forests in the back, especially if it's in a park situation, or if it's in a desert situation. You're gonna have wind or whatever room tone up here and a different room tone in the back. And if you don't, it feels flat to your audience, and that's death. You want that audience to go into subconscious sleep, to be tuning out all 6,996 other things. And the more stuff we can put into those ambience channels, the better. Very low. Now, on Thursday, we're going to be going into how to mix ambiences, where they should be in the mix, along with Foley, along with sound effects, along with dialogue. We're going to have a grand old time with this mix on Thursday and show you where things should go and where to pan them. Also, music stems, all kinds of stuff. I'm not going to get into that today because that's our juice for Thursday.
You blew me away.
Oh, good.
You're giving away the money secrets, man. If you're just tuning in, if you missed the first part of it, I'm Duran Gleaves. I'm here with Mark Edward Lewis, cinemasound.com, Hollywood, sound mixer, Foley, musician, everything.
Good looking.
Oh, thanks.
You are. Cool. Do we need to stop for any station identification or stuff?
I just did some station identification. Today we're talking about capturing, doing some noise reduction, cleanup, basic workflows in Audition. We've got two more days, 2 more shows. Gonna get deeper and deeper each day. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But we still got some time. Let's.
Don't we have a giveaway, or did we do that?
There's a challenge submission going on.
Challenge still going on.
We got some time before that.
Okay, cool.
People are just getting the last submissions in there.
Awesome. Okay, so now the next thing I get asked all the time is I've got some ambience tracks here, stereo, right? Whether you have music or not, it's okay. How do I get it out? How do I get the sound out of Audition? I got this great sounding thing. How do I get it out? Regardless of how, the fact of the matter is, when you get it out, you never want to go over 0 dB. You don't want to go over 0. We talked about it earlier on. You're missing data. Besides the fact you're going to get the phone call that you never want to hear. Even more horrible than a call from the IRS today on National Extortion Day. Yes, April 17th. The call you don't want to get is from quality control. QC saying, hey, you went over. We got the red lights. You got to remix. You got to redo it again. No. Here's how we solve that. I'm going to scroll down here to the master track. I got a whole bunch of tracks here, but down here at the bottom is the master track. I'm also going to go up here to FX, and I'm going to click on this little thing, FX. Ooh, I just did it again. I love that feature so much. It's so cool. I'm going to come down back to master. And I'm going to make this bigger, larger. There we go. You can do this a couple of ways. What I'm going to do is put a limiter on the master output. A limiter, and we're going to talk about all about this tomorrow, but a limiter basically is a volume police plugin that allows you to be able to run something as loud as you possibly can, and it will never go over a particular threshold. In this case, we want it to be slightly below 0. So we never even turn on the red light, never even get close enough for anybody to think that it is going to go over. And the limiter does that without distortion. It does some really clever math, and Audition has a really good limiter to do all kinds of really clever math to keep it from sounding like it's... Now, if you hit it really hard, it's going to sound really punchy, but it won't go over 0. So we want to put that on our master output. Just in case we have something that gets loud that goes over, it will keep it under 0 and be okay. So we can do this a couple ways. I can go and instantiate it here and say amplitude and compression. Where's my hard limiter? Right there. Or the recommended way is if I go Windows, Effects Rack, there it is. Make sure I'm on the master channel, and I do it the same thing here. And once I put it in here, hard limiter, you'll see it shows up down here as well. Let's take a look at these little functions. It's a very simple plugin to use. You have how loud do you want it to allow the overall sound to go? And for me, and we teach this at cinemasound.com, minus 0.1 isn't low enough. There are some guys at quality control at your deliverables, their red light will go off at minus 0.1. Plus, if you don't use true peak, which some plugins don't do, it will actually, little waveforms, without getting into the science, will go up and tick 0, and their red lights will go off, and you get the phone call.
With just peak, the waveform can peak above 0.
Correct. Oh dear. I love minus 0.2. That does it. Nobody ever goes over 0. There's no red lights that go on from minus 0.2. Then input boost, this is how much, remember I said you can really make it loud. This is how you can just jam the signal in and make it super loud. We'll talk about that, I think if we have time on Thursday, creating internet mixes if we have time, you would use some of this. Look ahead time, I don't know all the science that goes into it, but I never have a problem if I leave it at 10 milliseconds. You could talk about science about look ahead time way better than I can, but 10 milliseconds so far works for me. Let us know what your look ahead time is. I'd love to hear about it. Release time for a limiter, I like, especially on a master output for film, as short as possible. I don't want long limiting times unless I'm doing music, and then maybe I want to be careful. A release means how long does it take the limiter to release the signal once it comes back below that threshold. So for me, the minimum of 40 milliseconds is good, and I always unlink channels. What does link channels mean? It means that whatever comes up, and if the right channel gets really loud, the left one gets brought down too. They both get brought down together. If you unlink them, then the right channel can get loud, but the left channel is untouched. And for me, I want limiting to be independent on my master output at least, as seamless and unheard as possible. And that typically shows up with the limiter unlinked. All right, so let's check this out. Let's make a little mix here. I've got my dialogue unmuted. This is the Samson, this is our edit. Oh, let's see, I've got some cool ambiences. We'll just put in here. Let's see.
And as soon as I do, I'm starting to record, and you can see the waveform happening, and that's super nice. You'll also...
Cool, right? No big deal. Now the master, this is actually, this LED graph or meter is actually showing us the master output, and we're nowhere near 0, right? But let's make us way near 0. And I'm going to turn us down here so Paco doesn't go deaf. And we're going to turn this way up.
And as soon as I do, I'm starting to record, and you can...
I think I'm blocking that, so you should just drag that over a little bit. So
you're blocking it?
I'm blocking it.
Your
My
body's
overlay.
blocking it. Oh my gosh.
I'm always in the way.
Oh dear. Oh, you moved us.
Hey,
The
perfect.
magic of Paco, everyone. Oh.
I'm feeling a little queasy from that too.
I know, it feels funny. I don't know what that's about. Maybe it'll pass. All right, so here we go
And
again.
as soon as I do, I'm
going to turn off the limiter for a second.
And as soon as I do, I'm starting to record, and
Bad.
you can see the waveform.
Ooh, hiss. Phone call. I can already hear it ringing. The client says that you went over 0. Okay. With the limiter engaged, however,
And as soon as I do, I'm starting to record, and you can see the wave.
so nice. Didn't go over 0, and you really can't hear the difference in this case. Now, if I bring up the input boost, like maybe 12 dB, it's going to sound really crushy and loud.
And as soon as I do, I'm starting to record, and you can see the waveform happen.
But it's still not going over 0, even though we're going. The other thing that happens is if you drive a limiter like this really loud, the ambiences, the Foley, any low-level sounds are going to also feel much louder. Why? Well, because you've brought down the louds and brought everything else up. So if I bring everything else up, but bring the louds down, I've narrowed the dynamic range, and basically to your brain, it perceives that ambiences are louder. Listen, you can really hear the ambiences now.
And as soon as I do, I'm starting to record, and you can see the waveform happening, and that's super nice.
Especially when I'm in the parts between, because we have a very, between me speaking, because we have a very, very short release time. So this is the limiter instantiation or a creation for across your master, and that keeps you from going over 0, keeps you from having any trouble, and most importantly, that no phone call. Now, how do we get that? How do we get this out? How do we export? There's just so many cool ways of doing it. My favorite way is to go through Media Encoder, because Media Encoder dynamic linking has some possibilities in it that Audition doesn't. In fact, you can use Media Encoder if you brought in a Premiere Pro Session to Audition via dynamic linking to export not only your audio mix, but the video into Op1A files. I mean, any kind of thing that Media Encoder will do, which is so dope. But the easiest way to get your stuff out, File, Export, Multitrack Mix Down. If I had a time selection, if I had a little place that I wanted to export only, then I could use time selection. In this case, we just want to do entire session. That makes it easy. Let's take a look at this window for just a second. And we cover this in the tutorials as well, but we might as well just take a look here. Whoa, I need to get here. You say, hey, what file name do I want to make this? That's pretty good. We tell it where we want this to be. And then we say what format. Now, there's a lot of cool formats in here. AIF, because I'm on a Mac. And for you PC folks, obviously Waves is your de facto standard. But let me talk real strong about a couple things here in this little window. There's great formats, and then there's formats you shouldn't use. AIF, Wave, great formats. They're going to be around for some time to come. They're not lossless. They're no compression. It's bit for bit. And people complain to me. They're like, well, those audio files are so big. What am I going to do with these files? I'm like, really? I mean, if we're talking about 6K red files in RAW, and these files are audio comparatively like little teeny pebbles, in a rock pile compared to, dealing with sound file size. Some people have asked me, they're like, well, when I do my export in MP3, what bit rate should it be? And I have to stop them and say, we'd never want to export in MP3. I'm going to say never, and Duran doesn't get to say that because he put it in there, because it's useful if you know your delivery is an MP3. The problem is if you have to bring it in again, or someone else has to bring it in somewhere else, or you need to upload it to a server, YouTube, that recompresses it, you're losing a lot of fidelity. Enough fidelity where you were talking about the old analog days where you're like, wow, I hear the difference, and everyone can hear the difference. So we always want to export in a non-compression format for audio. Video, look, nobody wants to export it uncompressed, but for audio we can do it. The file sizes are small enough, and the advantage is way more than the space savings you're going to get out of MP3 or any of these other ones. And some of you are like, well, what about FLIC? It's lossless. It's still compression. And in the Cinema Sound Education, I think in the very first chapter of Record, or maybe it's Edit, we take a PCM uncompressed file into Spectral View, and we look at it, and then we look at it compressed in MP3. And you can see the difference. You may not be able to quite hear it, but here's the thing. Excuse me. If you export an MP3, and then you're like, oh, the client or me, I want to do an EQ to it, and then I want to add a little compression, and I want to change the volume. You're doing that from a compressed format. And that format is going to not be able to create really great results. And the next thing we do in Cinema Sound is show you what happens when we add compression, EQ, a volume change, and a pan expansion. And then you look at the waveform and you're like, whoa, it looks like somebody went in with scissors and started cutting up the waveform. And you absolutely can hear it. So I know, long diatribe. Lewis was on his high horse again.
Well, and it's important to point out that, I mean, you're creating, you would need to create the highest quality final master that you can. You may still have to deliver it. You may have delivery requirements in a compressed format, but that should be the very last step before you spank it on the butt and send it out the door. So while there's going to be a place for MP3 and other compressed formats for a long time, when you're working with those final recordings, those final mix downs, and you're doing that initial export, highest quality that you can keep it, the best results you're going to get all the way down the chain.
Totally. And there's no reason why you can't have both. Like what you were saying, export an AIF or WAV, and then if you're doing a media encoder, you can do multiple. You can say, hey, make it MP3, make it AIF, make it LFL, whatever it is, but always somewhere in the chain have that master as PCM, AIF, or WAV. Cool. From there, from here, it's sort of whatever you need your delivery to be, although, again, you want it to be as high resolution as possible. Some folks have asked me, they're like, well, if it's highest resolution as possible, I should export at 192. And you're like, well, yes, that would be wonderful, which is a really, really fast sample rate, much, much fast, 4 times faster than 48K. The thing is, you don't really gain anything by upsampling your audio if it's been recorded and mixed and mastered at 48 kilohertz. What?
You're doing great.
Oh, okay.
Just we're actually, time is flying by.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I'll just keep going here.
So we do need to hop over and take a look at the challenges in a sec. But let's finish the export here and let's make a final file and.
Oh, make a final file.
Yeah,
sorry, I just closed that.
You did all this work. We might as well.
Export
and make that
it.
final WAV file.
Hey. Export, multitrack mixdown, entire session. Okay, let's call this Adobe Live Export. We're gonna stick it in the Adobe Live folder. Lovely. It's AIF. It's 48 kilohertz, 24-bit, which is what I want. Stereo, which will be fantastic because we have our stereo ambiances now. Format settings, big Indian. This is all good. Include markers. Wouldn't that be lovely? Let's do that since we made those. And then I hit OK. It does its business. And if I go to that file.
What happened? That was so fast.
I know, it's so fast. To be fair, there's not a lot in there. But there it is. And if I hit play, I don't know if this.
And as soon as I do, I'm starting to record, and you can see the waveform happening, and that's super nice. You'll also notice.
And the ambiances are in there. Super easy to do.
Fantastic.
Yes, sir.
Successful day one.
Woo!
Yeah. Tomorrow we're looking at deeper multi-track workflows.
Tomorrow we're looking at plugins.
Plugins, effects, plugins, native, third-party, the whole game.
No, native only.
Automation?
Maybe.
We got some questions about automating clips. So.
Oh, okay.
So we can just show.
For sure Thursday. For sure Automation Thursday.
Gotcha. There's a lot to cover.
Yeah.
3 days.
Really?
I think we need to come back for like a 3-month intensive session.
Wait, it's on Cinema Sound. Oh!
Look at that. Look behind us.
What? What's happening? Whoa.
Not that way. Yeah. I know.
What?
It's beautiful. So we got a handful of challenge submissions. Let's go through and take a look, share them with everybody else on the stream, and see. The first one is, and I'm probably going to butcher your last name. My name is Duran Gleaves. I think I've built up a lot of credit for making mistakes on how to pronounce other people's names. But Chris Herlevic. Let's see. Let's just hit play and we'll go and start. That's very well graded.
Wow.
That's a nice, consistent grade across the 2 clips there, because those were very different clips. That water looks fantastic, too.
Beautiful.
Good job, Chris. So far, you're at the top of the list. Let's see who's next. Robin Goldman. Oh, I was looking at the thumbnail for this. I couldn't wait to see this one. How the West Was Won.
Oh, no, that's the wrong theme.
the film look.
Nice vignette.
It's nice and very solid. Ooh, nice little transition. That's real pretty. I don't know if I'm being suckered in by the film grain and
The gold.
and the dust, but that's really good looking.
Film grain.
Let's go to the next one. Now I'm kind of, I'm kind of noticing a theme here that all the videos submitted during the audio presentation are silent.
Funny.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I like that.
Little
That's
MoGraph.
some fun MoGerts. Ooh, that was nice. That was quick. That's from Massimiliano Bonavia. Oops, Robin Goldman. That's who did the one before. I couldn't remember if I said her name. Siobhan Fraser.
Hey!
Ooh,
look at
lens flare.
that. Tracked lens flare. Ooh, it goes away.
Yeah. Ooh. Boom, boom, boom.
Little up on the exposure. Zoom in.
That's fun.
That is fun.
Siobhan Fraser. Tim Merbist. Let's try this out. Tim, ooh, I like the blue already.
Day for night. Berlin.
It's a little Kodachrome. This makes me feel like I'm in 2nd or 3rd grade watching a nature documentary on
Totally.
a 16mm projector. Not Zombie Army. All right. Claire Cross.
Oh.
Cross. Let's try this one. I'm enjoying this one as well.
I love the peach coloring.
It's very subtle. Not like the blinking countdown timer we have to say, Duran, you're running out of time. And Lauren Eby. Or maybe if there is audio, we're not hearing it.
That could be.
Some
How
folks
tragic.
are saying that there's some sound, but I'm not hearing it. That one looks very natural. I like that very much. And I think that may be our last one. So, is the game now that we have to choose a winner?
Yeah.
Oh man,
What?
how can I choose?
Us,
What's that?
guessed us, so Mark.
The guest.
I got
does.
to.
I'm
I'm
up
an
for
audio
it.
guy. What do I know about color?
These were
let's see.
fantastic.
These are great. Let's see. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where's the? I got 7. Okay. What's the one? The 2 after the How the West Was Won. The middle.
This
I guess
one
the middle
here.
one. No, the next one. Stephen.
Siobhan,
I think that's our winner.
let's play it again. Double check. Make sure this is how you're
Yep,
digging it.
That's
with
the way it was.
lens flare sold ya.
Well, no. It's what happens next.
Ah, yes, the color changes.
Yeah.
Boom,
This.
boom, boom.
And then a nice blur dissolve, and what happens here?
Yep, sunrise.
Yeah, it's the sunrise. It's super cool. That's to me.
Fantastic. All right, well, I think we have a winner there.
Yeah.
Siobhan Fraser.
Good job, sir.
Well done. You made a hard decision. Don't know if I would have been able to do that.
Good work.
Hey, thank you everybody for taking the time. I'm Duran Gleaves. This is Mark Edward Lewis. Adobe Live picks up tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific. I think if you check the behance.net/live, you can look at the schedule and it should be in your local time zone. This has been fantastic. Congratulations to everybody, to Siobhan for winning the contest for today, to Fabian for winning this awesome pillow. I love this. I got to get one of my own. And I think we'll see you guys same bat time tomorrow.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.